Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome all of you who are present to participate in today's employee survey and focus group. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a worldwide focus on reimagining the day-to-day activities of society, and Team SISD is committed to providing a safe and secure environment for all of our students and staff. As the district develops its plans for reopening during the upcoming school year and beyond, our team wants to provide information to you, our esteemed Team SISD employees, with the opportunity to ask questions that will help to shape the final plan. Today, we've allotted an hour and 15 minutes to provide you with 3 presentations and an opportunity for our team to address those questions. We have 3 presenters for you today. Maribel Macias, Assistant Superintendent for Administrative Services, who will share information regarding safety and wellness protocols that will be in place at our facilities as they reopen. Alisa Zapata, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Schools, will present the considerations for adjustments to the school year calendar, with options should a resurgence of coronavirus cases arise in our community. And we will also have Jessica Macias, School Improvement Officer, who will share details on the instructional models being considered to maximize student learning in multiple scenarios. If you have joined us using the WebEx meeting, you will be able to post your questions in the Q&A section of the meeting space. We encourage you to post your questions and we will answer them after the presentations are completed. If you are joining the meeting on our YouTube stream, you will not be able to submit questions to be answered during the meeting. However, you will be provided with a link to submit questions and comments for our district leaders to consider in shaping the outcome of our plan. We're very happy to begin our meeting by introducing to you our wonderful Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jose Espinosa, who is here to welcome you. Dr. Espinosa?
Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope that all of you and your families are doing great. First, I want to thank everyone for the amazing work that you all did during our school closure, and also those who are still working, maybe still working summer school. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our amazing students. We also appreciate that you um, signed up to help us decide on the direction of our school district, because when it comes to the fall, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. So your feedback is so important to us because, like I tell people in our school district, every single voice counts. So thank you so much. We definitely want to make sure that we get it right the first time around. As you all know, they're very challenging times, so we want to make sure that we meet everybody's needs. It's very hard to do that because we are a large district, but no matter what, that is our goal, team. And lastly, I want to thank you for being patient throughout this whole process. None of us have ever gone through anything like this, but please know that we are leading with our hearts. We love our students. We love our employees, and I know that by working as a team with you, we can get this done right. We have met with several different groups here in our school district. We had one large group this morning, over 2,000 individuals who participated. And again, we are hearing our employees, we're hearing our parents out, our students out as well. So thank you for being part of the process. One little happy story that yesterday we met at the SAC, and we met with principals, the high school principals, student activity directors. Students showed up to discuss the process of our graduation that many of y'all have, I'm sure you have heard that our graduation for the class of 2020 is going to be a special class. Will be at the SAC. We've had it at the Don Haskins Center for many years, but we want to make sure that our class of 2020, that they experience this milestone like they should experience it along with their family. So those dates, I'm sure you already know, they're already posted. They're in late July. So we're looking forward to that. But again, we're getting input from different stakeholders. So again, this is important. important meeting. As Mr. Moreno mentioned earlier, you'll have the opportunity to provide questions in the chat box. And let's get started with our three presentations. First presenting will be Miss Macias. Miss Macias.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, Team SISD. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, this evening almost. We truly value everything that you've done, and we want your feedback and input. So please send us your questions, send us your feedback. Together, we are going to prepare for our 2020-21 school year. Just to give you a little background of how we started this back in late February, early March, was we actually have our emergency operation plan. At that time, we started receiving information that COVID-19 was possibly in El Paso or headed to El Paso. So at that time, we started setting up our wellness protocols, our systems, so that we could start mitigating the virus as it impacted our community. We went quickly from a watch level 1 to a warning level 3, where we got city and state ordinances that mandated our schools closure in March. At this time, what we're doing is we are creating our recovery plan. What is school going to look like when we start reopening? So that's what we're creating. We're creating our new normal, which will be our alert level 2. And we truly need your feedback and input for that. In April, we started meeting on a weekly basis with our safety committee. Our directors are part of that. So they started creating their new normals for athletics, fine arts. What does library time look like? Our CNS department, our CTE classes, what is that going to look like? So all of our stakeholders started to coming together, working with their teams to start developing our new normals and our wellness protocols embedded within them. Of course, working with cabinet, we're on daily, sometimes every other day calls with a commissioner with TEA, working with principals. They're actually looking at their campuses based on CDC guidelines. We're starting to look at social distancing. What is it going to look like as our students start returning to campus? What systems are we going to put in place? With social distancing, we know that it's a square footage within the 6 feet. So they're actually creating maximum capacities for each of the classrooms. And what that looks like, working with our human resources department, they're probably going to have a staffing starting as early as next week, so that we truly have all of our stakeholders in place as we transition to the 2021 school year. We had a parent survey that went out. It was open for 2 weeks. It opened May 18th through the 29th. So we had great feedback. Thousands of parents replied, and they gave us input of what they would like Socorro to look like in 2021. We opened up a survey for you all, so thank you for filling it out. Thank you for being with us here tonight. Again, it's going to be a true collaborative effort. And we've had 8 community meetings for our parents. And as of today, we're going to have 2 community meetings with our amazing staff. And I know that many of you all are going to be part of committees as we transition to that new normal. So many of you, we've reached out to you, and in June and July, you're going to be helping us do the fine tuning for our plan. And actually tomorrow, June 11th, we're going to be reaching out to our school board during a special board meeting, and we're going to be sharing the feedback that you all have provided us. This presentation will be given to them, and then they will give us direction of what the beginning of our 2020-21 school year will look like. The CDC is one of the resources that we consistently refer to and look at. This is a checkoff list that they recommended and provided a couple of weeks ago. So we're looking at and ensuring that all of these check marks are checked once and crossed twice. One of the things that they recommend is to have a very good system or plan with our local health department and our emergency management. And that's one thing I could share with you, that on a weekly basis on Fridays, we're in contact with them. They have given us great support. For our graduations that Dr. Espinosa mentioned, is we actually provide our plans and they give us feedback and they actually approve our plans. So we have not just our stakeholders, we're truly reaching out to the community to make sure that our wellness protocols are in place and that we're keeping everyone safe. Part of that is our personal protective equipment. So the things that I'm going to share with you now, I want your feedback of what does it look like and what are other things that you would recommend. So at the beginning of the year, we're recommending that when our students return, they will have entrances that are pre-assigned to them. And it might be by grade level. That's something that our campus principals are determining. We do know that there's families coming in together. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the opportunities for our students to interact with other groups. We want to make sure we keep them in small groups. They come into our schools and then they directly go into their first period classroom. Students will be asked to wear a face covering, a face mask. We will provide one to every single student, faculty, and staff member. The face masks that are required are the ones that fit snugly over your nose and mouth. And truly what we've learned is that face masks are truly to keep our germs to ourselves so that we're minimizing the spread of this virus. The other thing that we're asking is once the students get to the classroom, our teachers will do a daily wellness check. They'll take a temperature, they'll have that conversation. We're going to be teaching students along with parents of their wellness protocols to have a good idea if they're feeling well today or if they're not. We're going to ask parents to complete an electronic daily wellness check. Our IT department is creating it, and truly what it'll be is before a student leaves home, the parent will say, yes, my child is healthy and safe to go to school, or no, my child will be staying home. That information will be sent to our to the campus teacher, to the principal, to the nurse, and if they use our transportation services, it will go to the driver. So that's going to be important because we have to have that communication consistently with our families to ensure that we keep each other safe. Um, One thing that we are going to include, and this actually came from our campus nurses, they've been working alongside Miss Madrid to create their protocols. And one thing that they are recommending is for us to have, it's called a nurses isolation room. We do know that our nurses have their regular nurses station where they do regular things like a tooth fell or somebody needs a Band-Aid or somebody needs to take medication. So that nurses station will still be there, but they're asking for, it's called a nurses isolation room. That way, if any of our students or any of our faculty and staff have any COVID-19 symptoms that develop during the day, they could actually go to that room. Our nurses will have the protocol of how to properly care for them, and that way we could transition them to home or to a medical provider if necessary. And the COVID systems that we're teaching everybody that we've learned, these might be updated, and if so, we update them within our campuses is if you feel feverish, have cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, chills, repeated shaking with chills, loss of taste or smell, muscle pain, headache, or if you have close contact with a person confirmed to have COVID-19. So that's something that teachers, we're going to ask for them to consistently teach. And of course, we're going to be teaching our parents so that we're all very aware of our health and wellness. And if we don't feel well, we're asking everybody to stay home. Um, we are a little bit later in the trajectory of COVID-19. So we do know that there's other countries out there, there's other parts of our nation that have experienced a little bit more experience with COVID-19. For example, Germany, they have implemented this model within their schools and it has been successful at this point. So we're using or recommending one of these models. And please, if you find other items that are out there, send them our way. That way we could continuously improve the plans that we have. So number one, grade specific entrances, as I had mentioned. Two, grade specific building zones. That's something that many of our schools already have. They have the first grade hallway, that they have the fifth grade hallway. So we are actually, some of our buildings are already scheduled that way. Number three, parent, vendor, and visitor restrictions. That's something that we'll be sharing with the community as we're ensuring that all of our students are safe and well to come to school, our faculty and staff with our wellness checks. When anybody comes to campus, parents, vendors, visitors, it's going to be so important that they follow the same protocol. So we're going to be teaching and having those procedures in place. One-way traffic corridors, whenever we researched this, what they did is they ensured that if there is a hallway that is less than 6 feet in width, what they did is they have either the one-way traffic corridor or they have like a stop sign to where they get one group of students to transition to another area safely, and then they have the other group transition the other way. So again, being very mindful to minimize that 6 feet social distancing and ensure that everybody is practicing that throughout the day. They also are minimizing that frequently used areas, for example, lockers, supplies, no sharing of supplies, closing their water fountain. So if you notice with these procedures, what they're doing is they're ensuring that students are not touching the same areas. On the no school supply sharing, one thing that we're going to do is, of course, reach out to our community. We have great partners that are able to help us. That way, if there's any students that have difficulty, we'll ensure that every single student has their supplies. That way, we minimize the sharing. If there's any items that have to be transitioned from school to home, for example, a laptop, we're going to ensure that there are measures in place that we're sanitizing those items before they come into our building. That way we make sure that everybody's safe while they're here within our walls. Staggering cafeteria meals. So I know that our CNS department is working at each of the campus to see what it looks like with the guidelines that we received of the 6 feet social distancing. We know that there's going to be less capacity in our cafeterias, in our classrooms. So that's something that our CNS department is developing to ensure that when we have students eat, they're in a safe proximity from each other, that we take mask breaks, as that's one other thing that we've heard and we've read is that to have a mask on all day long, it's very difficult. So we're going to teach our students, teach our faculty staff that it is okay to have a mask break and how to do that safely. Another item that we're going to have and schedule in is hourly, if not periodic, hand washing. We are going to provide sanitizer for each one of our classrooms. Again, many classrooms have hand washing stations or sinks within the classroom. And of course, we have our restrooms. I know that our maintenance and operations department is creating structured schedules of how we're going to be sanitizing, how we're going to be cleaning those frequently touched areas throughout the day. Number 10, I don't know if we're ever going to get there, but in Germany, they actually have express bathrooms for COVID negative students and faculty staff. So I do know that we have an RFP that just closed and it's for telemedicine. So we might have a telemedicine provider that will provide COVID-19 testing for our students, and that might be something that we offer to our parents and see if anybody would like to take advantage of it. Faculty and staff, I do know that we have our drive-through testing right now at the SAC. So maybe our faculty staff would like to take advantage of that, and maybe that's something that we could try out in some of our campuses. Social distancing, this is what it might look like. This is actually a model from Loma Verde. And in some of our campuses, we'll still have some of the furniture in there. Not all the furniture will be 6 feet, but the students will be sitting 6 feet apart. So you might see tape or stickers to visually allow our students and teachers to know exactly where everybody should be. That way we're practicing the social distancing, and that'll not just be in the classrooms, that'll be from the point that students are dropped off all the way throughout the school, and of course, going right back out. And one thing that COVID-19 has taught us is that we have to be truly flexible and we have to plan for the unexpected. So at this time, our administrators are actually thinking outside of the box and reassigning building spaces, looking at areas that we could take advantage of because, as I said, our campuses are not built for social distancing. We used to have 22 to about 30 to 32 students in a classroom, depending on the grade level. Now, depending on the square footage, we're looking from anywhere from 9 to about 13. It depends on the size of the classroom, the size of the area. So those are the things that are being determined to see if there's labs that we could potentially use for another classroom, gymnasiums, cafeterias, maybe an outside classroom. I know that El Paso is hot, but maybe there's certain times that it would be appropriate and nice to have students go outside and do classes outdoors. We're looking at having community partnerships, possibly reaching out to El Paso Community College. We know that they're going to possibly start remote learning for some of their classes. So that might give them real estate that we could come into a contract with. So some of our students might be able to have classes at El Paso Community College. And of course, we're providing transportation if that does come up. Social distancing will also apply to our buses. We want to make sure that we transport our students to and from school safely. So visually, our transportation department will be also identifying which seats and where families could sit. Our bus drivers will have all the personal protective equipment. They'll have their mask, they'll have a face shield. If any student boards the bus that doesn't have a face mask, they forgot it. We will be providing disposable face masks that could be given out. We're also looking at providing thermometers for our bus drivers. That way we make sure that that daily wellness check, since our bus drivers will be the first person that a child sees in the morning, that's something that could occur. And again, it brings us together as a community. So those are all things that we're looking at. I know that yesterday, being on the commissioners call, they're actually providing us with personal protective equipment. And one of the items are thermometers. And just know that we were ahead of the game. Our amazing finance department already started purchasing the face mask for each student, for each faculty staff, disposable face masks, the hand sanitizer. In some of our special needs units, we might have gowns. So I know that our nurses, their personal protective equipment is going to be very specific. Miss Madrid has worked with our finance department and with Dr. Castro, our emergency operations coordinator, to ensure that we're buying everything that we need to be safe as we transition to this 2020-21 school year. So as a recap, these are some of the wellness protocols that I discussed: daily monitoring and temperature checks, personal protective equipment for teachers and students, social distancing requirements, minimizing the transitions and large gatherings. So in some areas, we're looking to see if maybe the teachers could transition versus the students. So that's something that our administrators are looking to see when that is feasible and comparable. Of course, we're going to have soap, hand sanitizer. We're going to teach everybody what is required, how to keep each other safe, sanitizing wipes and cleaners. Again, maintenance and operation will have their protocols to ensure those frequently touched areas are clean. Same thing for transportation. We're putting all those sanitizing protocols within all of our buses. And we just want to share, we're going to be partially opening indefinitely. What we've learned with this virus is that at one point, the worst will be behind us. Here in El Paso, we still have not reached our peak, but at some point we will. So our local health department will then start loosening some of the social distancing guidelines. At that point, we possibly will start transitioning back to our new normal. But we do know that there's a late fall resurgence. So with that, I know that Ms. Zapata will be sharing with you some of our recommendations for our 2020-21 or 2020-21 calendar. It's so important that we already start planning for this and have the flexibility within our calendar. And based on what we're learning from other countries, there COVID-19, there's ongoing waves. So it's so important that we have multiple learning platforms that we're able to transition on a dime to ensure that we're able to meet the needs of all of our students. And Ms. Macias will be sharing with those models with you shortly. So at this time, please provide me questions, feedback. Truly appreciate you all being here with us today. If you are participating via YouTube, this is how you could type in your questions. Go to https://bit.ly/3 lowercase g, capital F, capital W, capital C, lowercase q, capital D. Woo, that's a mouthful. So with that, I want to turn it over to Ms. Zapata, and she'll be sharing with you our 2020-21 proposed SISD calendar.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Macias. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And I am here to share with you the changes that we're proposing to our 2020-2021 SISD calendar. So as Ms. Macias stated, we have taken a lot of time and we're continuously analyzing and revising and developing our new normals, changing and restructuring our systems because of the pandemic. And we found that our calendar is another system that we need to restructure to include the flexibility that we're going to need. So in doing so, there are two things that we've kept in mind. We have to ensure that we keep the safety and security of our students, our teachers, and our community. That is a top priority. And secondly, we must try to maximize our resources to ensure we are building a strong educational foundation and closing any type of gaps that may have occurred during this time. So This particular calendar that I'm about to present to you has been restructured to include any type of additional flexibility to absorb extended COVID-19 closures while still meeting TEA requirements for the operation of our schools. So if you'll notice that Ms. Macias just put the calendar up, this particular proposed calendar has 180 days of instruction for students while maintaining 187 teacher work days. And if you look at the top top left-hand corner where the cursor is, you'll see we have added an additional week, and we will have staff development days on July 20th through the 23rd. And then teachers will have a full work day on July 24th. Students will begin instruction on July 27th. So students will begin the 2020-2021 school year instructionally on July 27th. We will maintain our Labor Day holiday on September 7th, and then students will end their first 9 weeks on September 25th. Then September 28th through October 9th, students will enter in what we're going to call a floating intersession, our fall floating intersession. And I'm going to talk to you guys and explain what a floating intersession is in just a few minutes. Students will return for their second 9 weeks of instruction on October 12th. Students will go through the rest of October. We will maintain and keep our November 11th Veterans Day holiday. We will also have our Thanksgiving break, November 23rd through the 27th. Students will return to school in December, or they will return to their instructional in December, and we will end the first semester, the second 9 weeks, on December 16th, and we will enter into winter break on December 17th through January 1st. Now, if you notice, January 4th, we have a staff development day, and then January 5th, our third 9 weeks will begin for our students. Again, we'll maintain January 18th, Martin Luther King holiday. If you go up to your right-hand side of the calendar, where students will be in instructional mode in February, and they will end their third 9 weeks on March 5th. And we will begin our spring floating intersession March 8th through March 19th. There will be a staff development day on March 22nd, and students will enter into their fourth 9 weeks on March 23rd. Of course, we will keep our Good Friday holiday on April 2nd. Students will return in instruction and the rest of April and in May, and we will keep our May Memorial Day holiday. And the last day of school for students will be June 3rd. It will be an early release. And then teachers will have a half-day work day on June 4th. Our high school graduations are planned for June 4th and June 5th of 2020-2021. Ms. Macias, will you go to the next slide? Thank you. So as I stated earlier, this calendar has been restructured to include flexibility in case we have to close any schools or the district because of COVID-19. We can still meet our TEA operational requirements. Okay, what we're doing is we have included additional minutes into our calendar, and we're also incorporating floating intersessions. Now, we did use some data, and as Ms. Macias had said earlier, it is predicted that there will be a resurgence in the fall. And as we look at our data, our attendance data, we have found that our lowest attendance months for our students are between December and February. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples of how we have included some flexibility into this calendar. And I'm going to talk to you guys about floating intersessions. So if you look at the left-hand side of the calendar back in September, you're going to see 2 yellow floating bars by September 7th, the week of September 7th and September 14th. So here's an example of what a floating intersession might be. Let's say students are back in school and we find that someone is confirmed positive for COVID-19, and let's say we have to close the school down. So if you see those two floating those two flashing bars, Ms. Macias, can you have those bars flashing for me? Thank you. What we can do actually is float that intercession from September 28th through October 9th. We can actually float it up if we have to, so that number one, we can keep our community, our students, our teachers safe and secure. And two, we can maximize our resources. We can protect our instructional time. Okay, so that's one example of what a floating intercession could be. Then again, I'm going to go back, as Ms. Macias had stated, that it's been recorded, or it's been stated that there's a probability of a resurgence in the fall semester, or in the fall around December. Again, we have additional minutes built in that if we have to close a school or a few schools or the district, we have additional minutes built in so that we can apply for a state waiver. Okay. Then in January, let's say we come back in January. If you see there, you're seeing two yellow bars flashing. Again, if we have to close a school or multiple schools or the district because of COVID-19, we have the ability to float the March intercession up into January. So again, it's to keep a safe and secure environment for our teachers, our students, our community, and also maximizing our resources in making sure that we are protecting our instructional time. So as we've done this, as we've worked to create this flexibility, we also wanted to make sure that this flexibility would be able to accommodate our learning models that we are developing and that Ms. Jessica Macias is about to present to us. So if you can go to the next slide. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. We need your feedback. We value your feedback. You can submit your questions at https://bit.ly/3 lowercase g, uppercase F, uppercase W, uppercase C, lowercase q, uppercase D. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jessica Macias, and she's going to talk to everyone about the instructional models that we're proposing for the 2020-2021 school year.
Good evening, SISD. Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will be presenting again our game plan for the upcoming school year. Please know that in all our preparation and planning, we are putting the safety of our students, our teachers, and our staff at the forefront of everything that we do. So you will see, again, different learning models that we can transition to, again, depending what the virus is doing within our community. In these models, you will see schedules. You'll see sample schedules. These sample schedules have been created to account for virtual fatigue, social distancing, and of course, sanitation procedures. And you will see some consistency within the model. Though we are dealing with an unpredictable pandemic, we will have consistency in the start and stop times, no matter what model we are in. Again, this is an response to what the pandemic is doing. So in these models, please know that we can transition from one day to the next. As Ms. Zapata mentioned, the word for 2020 is going to be flexibility as we, again, deal with this unpredictable pandemic. So we do have these differentiated learning models. We have 3 that as a district we will transition to. And then we do have one option for our parents, of course, to choose to keep their families at home. And I'll go in a little bit more depth with each one of the models as well. So again, we are making every effort to provide you with the technology that you need to deliver these virtual lessons, and of course for our students to receive them at home as well. As of right now, we have not received any waivers for the upcoming school year. The expectation from TEA is that we do need to meet our instructional minutes and of course, meet our attendance guidelines, and of course, prepare our students for any state assessments. But again, this is a very fluid situation and that may change. But as of right now, we have not received any waivers. So we are moving forward with increased instructional times, a normal instructional day that students and again, teachers are accustomed to. And again, with all this new learning, we will be providing professional development to you. Again, this is a new learning experience for us all. And we know that we need to be supportive and to train our teachers properly to deliver the virtual instruction. And then, of course, we are here to provide you with that customer service. So as soon as we receive any updates, we will be rolling them out. If they do change, some of the expectations change as far as social distancing or wellness guidelines, we will let you know. So in front of you, you do see the four proposed models for the upcoming school year. We have model number one, which is again, the model that we all wish we could go back to and kind of wish this virus away, but we know that we can't. So that is the traditional learning model where all students are invited back to our campuses. And of course, that would be an option for school year, depending on what the pandemic is doing within our community. Model number two is the Remote Learning Academy. And again, a modified version of what we did this fourth 9 weeks. Again, this upcoming school year, it will have increased instructional times. And this particular model will be used in the event of a full district closure or a campus closure. And then we have model three, which is the hybrid learning model. And again, this will be our attempt to start bringing students back to our campuses, again, adhering to CDC guidelines and the percentages that they recommend for reopening schools. Much like they're doing within the community, we started at 25% opening, and then we're headed to a 50%. The percentage, again, would be dependent on what the CDC is recommending at the time of the reopening. These first three models, again, will be district decisions that we will decide, again, depending on what COVID-19 is doing with within our community. And again, these are, as Ms. Zapata mentioned, in conjunction with the flexible calendar and the floating intercessions, because they are in response to what COVID-19 is doing. The final model will be an option for parents who choose to keep their child at home. They have the resources, they have the childcare to keep their child at home. However, they still want them participating in the great instruction that SISD is known for. So that will be an option for parents who choose, again, to keep their child at home this upcoming school year, no matter what the pandemic is doing within the community. So again, going back to the Remote Learning Academy, our expectations for instruction will be to, again, roll out grade level standards and get our students ready for any, again, state assessments. And this model would be used in the event of a full district closure or a campus closure. As Ms. Zapata mentioned, we start the school year in one particular model, outbreaks start happening, and then we have the Remote Learning Academy model that, again, we can transition to in the event if the cases continue to grow. So what you're going to see now is you're just going to see a sample schedule for each one of the levels. Now, we do have staggered times for each level. And in elementary, our students will actually start at 7:30. So in the morning, our students will be expected to already be dressed and ready to log on and learn virtually from their teachers at 7:30. And they will have a full day of instruction until 2:45. At 2:45, our teachers will have their conference. And then, of course, those students that are participating in our 3-year-old program, pre-kinder or kinder, they will end their day a little bit earlier. Again, Ms. Macias will present the sample schedule, and you will see this is what a sample schedule will look like. So the expectation for virtual teaching for teachers will be Monday through Thursday. They will be teaching live virtual lessons with our students. And then on Fridays, our students, again, would not have to log on virtually unless invited by a teacher, but they will be participating and completing self-paced Nearpods on Friday. This gives the teachers that opportunity to participate in faculty meetings to receive updates from their administrators, be a part of PLCs. And then, of course, depending on the length of the closure, they'll start to bring in small groups for that small group intervention. In our K-8s, our elementary students that are participating in a K-8 campus will actually start at 8:15. And again, they will go till 3:30. Same expectations for the schedule, as you will see. The live virtual teaching will happen Monday through Thursday. And again, Friday, giving the students that time to complete self-paced Nearpods while teachers again plan and prepare for the upcoming school week. Our traditional middle schools and our K-8 middle schools will both start at 8:15. And again, they will be returning to a block schedule. So you'll see the block schedule and 90-minute classes for each one of the 4 courses that they will take each day. And again, they will transition between those courses as well. The same expectation for virtual teaching will happen Monday through Thursday and Friday, giving those teachers the opportunity to participate again in faculty meetings and PLCs. Within the schedules, you will see transition times and brain breaks. And again, this gives students the opportunity who are participating from home and teachers who are participating also that opportunity to break away from the computer, go get a drink of water, have lunch, and then come back. And then again, the same expectation for middle schools starting at 8:15. And then our high schools. Our high school students will actually start at 9 o'clock. The teacher conference will be first thing in the morning. And then again, they will see the four teachers each day. And then again, alternating days. However, on Friday, they will have 45 minutes to watch and attend classes with each one of their teachers. And then again, this offers our high school teachers that opportunity for reteaching, assessment, or providing intervention at that time as well. The hybrid model, again, is our attempt to start bringing those students back, and we are going to do our best to group those students so that, again, we have a good idea of the students that will be on the campuses in the event of a positive case. And of course, we have the numbers so we can do some contact tracing. Again, in this particular model, the instruction is happening virtual in front of live students and of course with students who are participating at home. Much in the same way as you are participating from your homes and I am in front of a live audience, our teachers would be expected to offer the instruction and provide it simultaneously in this particular model. In this model structure, again, the percentage of what the CDC will recommend to allow students to come back will be solely dependent on them. And then this is just a sample just so that you can get an idea of what we're starting to plan. So looking at grouping our students into 2 particular groups and inviting them back. Now, first, we would have those families that have chosen the at-home model, so they wouldn't be part of the grouping. They will just be a part of the virtual instruction. However, the families that need to send their students back to campus will group them accordingly. And then this is what it would look like in a Monday through Friday schedule. So you see the blue group is group 1, the red stick figure represents group 2, and the beautiful cute emoji represents the teacher. So the teacher would be expected to return to campus every single day to provide, again, the instruction. However, the group of live students that will be on campus that particular day will vary every day. So we felt we minimize the transitions by going to the block scheduling. And then, of course, now with the groupings, we'll minimize the number of students that are actually live sitting in front of the teacher. So you'll see that group 1 will actually on week A show up 3 times a week, where group 2 will just show up twice. And then on the alternate week, week B, we'll have group 2 showing up 3 times a week and group 1 showing up just twice. And again, this is to minimize the actual number of students showing up to the campus. Again, there's not much that we can keep consistent for the upcoming school year. However, we are keeping the start times and end times for our students consistent no matter what. So for the 2021 school year, we will remain in a block schedule for our secondary. Our elementaries will start at 7:30. Our middle school and K-8s will start at 8:15, and our high schools will start at 9 o'clock. No matter what model we're in, if we're in the remote or if we're in the hybrid. And again, this accounts for that 45-minute transition time that Ms. Macias explained we're going to need for the transition of students from on the buses as we minimize the number of students that can actually utilize the bus. So we'll have those transition times in the morning, and then you'll see the staggered end times as well. So our elementaries will end at 2:45, our K-8s and middle schools will end at 3:30, and our high schools will end at 4:15. So you see that 45-minute staggered time in the morning, and you'll see it in the afternoon, and that will be consistent throughout the school year, no matter what model we're in. And of course, those families that are choosing to participate in the at-home learning model, again, will adhere to those same start times and end times for the next school year. Again, this is just a sample schedule. Again, when teachers will start and students will end their day, conference times, and then again, looking at what the alternating week looks like. So we'll see what the schedule looks like. The expectation for teaching will be Monday through Friday. And then again, within the schedule, we did keep the brain breaks, and we did keep times for, again, especially breakfast in the classroom, following social distancing guidelines, and of course, sanitation guidelines as well. Those brain breaks in between the school day. And then, of course, at the end of the day, as we prepare our students to leave, adhering to social distancing and then sanitation procedures as well. Same thing for elementaries in K-8s. And then, of course, in middle school, we'll continue to have the block scheduling. And again, those transition times, again, we have the transition times, and we did a block scheduling to minimize the transitions. And then, of course, having those embedded times for social distancing and sanitation procedures, as Ms. Macias mentioned as well. And then, of course, our middle schools stay the same, and then our high schools as well. So again, Team SISD know that we have had to rethink every system and everything that we have known about education. And again, this is going to come with a lot of training. And of course, as this is a fluid situation and all of that changes, we will be providing updates to those trainings as well. So next year, our staff will be receiving those protocols on, again, what the wellness safety checks will be within the classroom, again, how to call in the event of being positive or having a positive case within the campus. And then, of course, we were going to do our best to provide you teachers with the best professional development on how to embed those best practices, how to, again, address the needs of the students, how to provide virtual small group instruction, and then again, how to assess in this learning model, because again, as TEA has not given us waivers on the number of instructional minutes, so the expectation is still there about delivering grade level instruction. We need to know how to assess, and we need to know how to monitor and adjust our instruction to make sure our students are receiving the best education that SISD is known for. So we need to continue to do that, and we will be providing you again with professional development, ongoing, virtual, live, or of course, in person, depending again on COVID-19 and what it's doing within our community. And then, of course, how to communicate with parents. So again, thank you so much this evening. We know that there's a lot of information that we have thrown out there, and there's a lot that we still can't continue to answer. There's things that we're still developing, but as we develop, we're going to do our best to, again, get that information to you in a timely manner. Thank you so much. And again, your feedback is greatly appreciated. So again, you do see the URL address to type in your questions. And right now I'm going to toss it back to Ms. Macias.
Thank you. At this time, what we're going to do is we're going to try to get to as many questions as you all shared with us, but please know if we don't get to them, we're still going to read every single question, and we're using your feedback as we develop our plans for 2020, 2021. So at this time, Ms. Zapata, Assistant Superintendent for our elementary campuses, do you have a question to share with us?
I sure do. I have the question, as the calendar only offers 3 intersessions a year, what happens when we run out of intersession weeks and we're theoretically still in February? So that's why we have built in additional minutes. As you know, we have moved up a week so that we're actually starting a week earlier with our students, and we do have additional minutes built into the calendar so that if needed, we can apply for a waiver from the state.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Retana, Assistant Superintendent for Middle Schools.
Yes, good evening, everyone. There are several questions regarding what happens when there is a COVID-19 positive case at a campus or even here at the DSC office. And so some of the questions have been, do we close the campus completely? And so the answer is yes, but maybe no. It depends. Remember that we're going to be monitoring students in smaller groups. So the contact tracing that you hear about on the news with the state and other entities are doing that is also happening here in the district. It even happens now at this time with employees that are back to work. And even if you're not back to work, and they're reporting issues to their principals or to their supervisors. So that will be decided on a person by person, case by case basis.
Thank you. If I may interject also, we're going to be working alongside the health department. And what they do currently is if they do have a COVID positive, they share with us. And at that point, we identify if it's a 14-day self-quarantine or depending on their point of exposure. And then they help us in contact tracing. Again, we have our wellness protocols where we document and we have our log. So those are the things that we'll be incorporating. And just know that we already have that system in place with our local health department, and we will continue to improve it as we transition back to the 2020-21 school year. Thank you, Ms. Retana. Mr. Ironton, he's our Chief Operations Officer.
Yes, Ms. Macias. There's a few questions about how lunches and how the meals will be served through this new schedule and stuff. Right now, the CNS department is working with the Texas Department of Agriculture and studying how we are going to outline the plans, whether it will be a continuation of our stuff that we did during the spring or new regulations coming up. But we are working with the campuses, and CNS department is working with all the campuses on how lunches will be handled.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Crusay, Assistant Superintendent for High Schools.
Good evening. So one of the questions is, some of our staff is assigned to more than one school. If only one school closes, how would this impact the person's work schedule? So that person would work with the department if they're working through CTE or fine arts or athletics to develop a plan for a schedule that will work with the schools and with the teacher.
Thank you. Ms. Parham, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary and K-8 campuses.
The staff development that's offered in July, will that be in person or online? All the staff development in July will be remote. It will be online.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno, Coordinator for Instructional Technology.
Yes, we have a question about teachers who have experienced over the last 2 months work that has not been turned in by children, and how will we keep track of the work that's done by children. So one of the shifts that's going to occur for this upcoming school year is that many of those Nearpod lessons that were developed for students to work on their own are going to be switching. The teaching model is going to switch to a much more live and interactive method of teaching, to where the teacher will be able to monitor. And Nearpod has tools within it to monitor the students' progress as they're progressing through a lesson. And then we will also, again, provide professional development on using the features in Teams, not only to have that live interaction, but also to make assignments, and again, have another way to keep track of those assignments for students. And another thing that I'd like to add is that we also are going to be rolling out a new LMS system. And so that's a third tool that we'll be able to share with teachers to be able to address this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, Director for Human Resources.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This question asks, will pre-K classrooms continue having aides, and how will their schedules look like? Yes, our pre-K classrooms will continue to have instructional supports. And of course, we will encourage our instructional supports to work with the principals to set those schedules so that we can maximize their time and help us with all our guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reza, Chief Financial Officer. Hi. I think we're having technical difficulties. I'll get right back to you, Mr. Reza. Mr. Campoya, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Yes, Ms. Macias, we do have a question here that states, what if we don't have childcare for our children that stay home every other day, but we are expected to work every day? Will teachers have the option to teach online those days? We are currently working on a qualifying criteria following the guidelines provided by the expanded family medical leave. And we're going to be forming a committee. So employees that are requesting that will need to go through that qualifying criteria and be approved by the committee in order for them to be allowed to work from home. If they do not qualify, then they have the option of using their leave if they want to stay home to take care of their child, for example.
Thank you. Mr. Ressa.
Yes, there was a question having to do with whether teachers would be given gowns for protection. What I can tell you is that we're ordering 50,000 gowns, so we can assign at least 1,000 gowns to each elementary school, each school in general, and that's to start off with. I do want to state that we've ordered 240,000 masks. We've ordered 1,150 infrared thermometers. We've ordered 200 electrostatic sprayers for transportation, and over 5,000 gallons of sanitizers. And that's just a start. So TA just informed us yesterday that they will be shipping to us over 400,000 masks as well, and about another 4,000 gallons of sanitizer. So hopefully that'll help us keep our employees safe.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Redlinger, he's our Director for Human Resources.
Good evening. One of the questions that were brought up was, I'm sorry, I just lost it. The question was, can you come back?
I sure can.
Just
Mr.
lost it.
It happens. I understand technology. We're all learning. I know that my proficiency has gone up quite a bit during these months. Mr. Carmona, Director for Human Resources.
Thank you, Ms. Macias. Good evening to everyone. Will teachers receive additional sick days? In general, employees have multiple leave options to use when they're sick or when they're caring for others. The Department of Human Resources will continue to provide information in terms of leave options based on their needs, eligibility, and qualifying reasons. We encourage everyone to please continue to send your leave inquiries to absence management at leaves@sisd.net, or of course you can email me directly, mcarmo02@sisd.net.
Thank you. Ms. Borrego, Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening. I have a question from somebody that put, am I understanding correctly? The students will need to be online the entire day. And that is correct for the most part. It's going to be very different than when we went on break in March, as we will be having full days if we choose to go the remote learning or the at-home model. It is a schedule that will be provided. Of course, there will be brain breaks, but it will be like a regular day of school, as we will be following the pacing guides and teaching the TEKS. So all subjects, and of course there will be somebody else had asked in another question, will there be a 45-minute uninterrupted lunch? And it is, and teachers will have their conference period, but for the most part it will be an entire full day of school with brain breaks and breaks.
Thank you. We have Mr. Ortega, Director for Special Education.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Macias. Good evening, everyone. A couple of questions on PPE, and Mr. Ressa kind of already addressed it in general, but the question specifically is about, in special education units, will we be provided with sufficient amount of PPE, personal protective equipment? And the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, not only with the items that Mr. Ressa had already mentioned, campuses, of course, are getting the face mask, gloves, and sanitizer, but also for our units, I've already have requested 400 face shields and disposable gowns for all of our unit teachers and for all of our unit aides. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Calderon, Director for Athletics.
Good evening. I'll answer a PE question first, and the question is, will there be PE? We do plan on scheduling PE classes. We're working on developing spacing guidelines and activities that fit all of the 4 learning models.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, Director for Fine Arts.
Yes, I have a question here. How will fine arts operate? For example, will choirs be able to practice in person, or will they need to do theoretical lessons live and students practice at home? Right now, we are working with our teachers and meeting weekly to develop options for both, and to work within the CDC guidelines. And we're also waiting for more guidance later this month from UIL to make some determinations on how we will be able to work with our choirs in the classroom. But our fine arts programs will continue.
Thank you. Ms. Macias, School Improvement Officer.
Yes, ma'am. There is a question about our WIN Academy, and I apologize for not making that clarification earlier. But yes, for those teachers who are teaching currently in the WIN Academy, in their schedules, they will account for that additional hour. Again, that power hour at the end of the day to give our students that additional dose of reading and math.
Thank you. Ms. Zapata.
Yes, ma'am. I have here, is there the possibility to break pre-K and kinder classes into half days? 11 students will attend in the AM and the other 11 in the afternoon. This way we can reach all the students and have social distancing. It's a nice suggestion and thank you. We are currently working on what our classes will look like for our early childhood grades to ensure that we maintain social distancing as per our CDC guidelines.
Thank you. Ms. Retana.
Yes, there's some questions about teaching strategies, more in particular in upper elementary grade levels. How will team teaching be addressed? So that will be a decision made by the campus. And remember that team teaching can happen as long as social distancing is happening. And all the protocols that we have in place are held intact each day.
Thank you. Mr. Iington.
Yes, we just had a question come in about breakfast in the classrooms. As we understand now, yes, breakfast in the classrooms will be served.
Thank you. Ms. Crusay.
Yes, one of the questions was, since we have conference periods each morning for high schools, will high school teachers be teaching 8 classes? And the answer is no. Teachers will continue to teach 7 out of 8 periods with their planning period in place.
Thank you. Ms. Parham.
Can a student refuse to wear a mask? For the safety of everyone, everybody's going to be required to wear a mask to be on campus.
And I'll interject with that. Right now, we do have information out to our TASB legal. What we're trying to do is incorporate our mask into our uniform, and that way it'll be placed into our student code of conduct for 2020-21 and for our discipline handbook. So that's something that we want to make sure that we have in place. Again, at this point, that information is over at TASB legal. If they do allow us to do that, we will ask our board to take action on that in July. So thank you for that question. Mr. Moreno.
Yes, we have a question about in the hybrid learning model, whether our classrooms will be outfitted with the proper equipment to do that. And so know that any classroom that currently has a desktop computer will be purchasing a webcam that has a built-in microphone to do that. And our amazing principals have already been proactive in redirecting some of this current year's remaining funds to purchase some of that equipment, and in some cases have also purchased laptops that have those items built in.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera.
Yes, we have another staffing question. Will every nurse have an aide? So currently we are looking and revising all our staffing needs for every single one of our schools, and we are possibly providing extra personnel. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ressa.
Yes, I think there's a question having to do with the board meeting concerning the model to be adopted by the board. That would be tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. and it will be through a conference call, and they could see it or hear it on YouTube tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Campoya.
There is a very good question here that says, will teachers or staff need to be required to take a COVID-19 test before going back to work or to the campus? And do they need to be testing negative in order for them to be allowed? And the question is no, we're not going to require the testing, but we are going to be providing employees guidelines as to how they can self-diagnose, just so that they are able to ensure that they are staying safe. And any additional questions regarding that can always be directed to the employee absence management department in HR by emailing leaves@sisd.net.
Thank you. Mr. Redlinger.
Yes, the quick question here is, what will be the class size for elementary, middle, and high school? It will depend on the class size of the classroom. Campuses are currently creating guidelines for each room in the building and how many students can be accommodated with the proper distancing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carmona.
Thank you, ma'am. There's a question related to the employee clinic. did we have to opt into the insurance through the district in order to utilize the clinic if needed? Yes, the clinic is a benefit offered through a health plan or for those employees and covered dependents under the Socorro ISD health plan. And we encourage everyone that does have the insurance with the school district to please call the clinic first before they visit the facility. The number to the clinic is, of course, 915-937-2750. Again, Employee Health Clinic, 937-2750. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Borrego.
There are several questions on here about students and laptops and having a device. This one in particular says, is it anticipated that every student will have a computer available to attend classes, for example, families with multiple students? Our goal in Socorro, we started several years ago when Dr. Espinosa became our superintendent to have a one-on-one. So all of our high school students have laptops. The majority of our middle school students have laptops, and just recently, it was taken to the board to order more laptops for our elementary students and iPads for our pre-K and kinder. That was approved. So the goal is to eventually have a device, some type of device, in every student's hand. It might not be right when school starts, but very close to it, as we're anticipating a big demand across the country. We're working very diligently to do that for all of our Socorro ISD students.
Thank you. Mr. Ortega.
Yes, ma'am. I have a couple of questions pertaining to testing and services for students in special education. And as of today, the federal government has yet to provide any waivers when it comes to the provision of FAPE for students in special education, specifically when it comes to testing, for example, initial evaluations and for services. So as of right now, we will continue to, depending on what the board decides tomorrow on which model or models may be utilized for us to get the school year started and throughout the school year. So if it is the hybrid model, for example, then our teachers will be implementing the model as described by Jessica Macias. And so some of our students will be in the classrooms receiving direct instruction, and other students at the same time will be receiving instruction remote learning. As far as testing our students, since they will be back in school, if it's the hybrid model, and we will be performing our evaluations in school. And we are going to be taking extra precautions, as our evaluation staff will be utilizing not only the face mask and gloves, but we've also have ordered them the face shields and disposable gowns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Calderon.
Okay, I have a question on, is there going to be extracurricular activities and athletics? As far as athletics, there are tentative dates, start dates in place. We are expecting further guidance from UIL later this summer to take into consideration what the conditions are for COVID-19 regarding athletics.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Yes, regarding the same question, on the fine arts side, again, immediately going into the fall, we are awaiting guidance from UIL on what a competitive marching season look like for our fall activities. Until then, our students are working in small groups within CDC guidelines in preparation for that until we get the clearance to pursue practice at a higher level.
Thank you. Ms. Macias.
Yes, ma'am. There is a question. Will WIN teachers have the extra a week of training before staff development begins? Yes, we will be sending out more information to our WIN teachers, again, once the board does approve the changes to the instructional calendar for the upcoming school year. However, all of the training that will be provided for our WIN Academy will be virtual.
Thank you. Ms. Zapata.
Yes, if a conference period is from 7:30 to 8:15 and school starts at 8:15, who will be monitoring students as they arrive on campus? Where will students meet in the mornings as they arrive? Right now, please know that each campus is currently working with our emergency operations department to develop their morning student entry and monitoring plans.
Thank you. Ms. Shetana. Oh, I'm going to go right over to Mr. Iington. You guys are killing me. Ms. Crocet.
In my PLTW classes, my students share computers throughout the day. How will that be accommodated if they cannot share a computer? Mr. Thomas answered this question. The CTE department is working already with our teachers to develop a plan so that we can meet those needs, and not only for the PLTW classes, but for all CTE programs.
Thank you. Ms. Parham.
If my children attend different schools, could they end up on different schedules? We're going to be working with families to make sure that that doesn't happen. So if you have children in two different campuses, we'll work with you to make sure that they have the same days of school.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno.
The question is about what considerations have been given to cleaning of technology, for example, keyboards, mice, or other types of manipulatives, and was this taken into account when looking at transition times? And this is one of those shifts that all of us are going to have to make as we go back into the buildings and into our classrooms. And we're going to have to take a little bit more ownership in having that that cleaning taking place by ourselves. So the classrooms will be provided with plenty of cleaning supplies for that. And again, not only will our custodial staff do their usual wonderful work of doing daily cleaning, but we will also need to get ourselves and our students used to cleaning their own items as they use them.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera.
Yes, we have a question on mental health. School counselors are going to work hard to address the mental health and social emotional needs of students. Given the anxiety and fear that some employees may experience when returning to campuses, how is the district planning to address the mental health? So we do have an assistance program. It is available to all our staff 24/7 through Deer Oaks Employee Assistance Program. The email address is DEROAKSEAP.com. So it's DeerOaksEAP.com. And the phone number is 1-866-327-2400. Again, I'll repeat that phone number, 1-866-327-2400. And it is free and confidential. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ressa.
Yes, there's a question if face shields would be a better option for using masks for little ones in the 3-year-old pre-K classrooms. I would think that's certainly a consideration. Again, it's all predicated on CDC regulations and guidance, as well as discussions with the principal and the parent. So that answers that question.
Thank you. Mr. Campoya.
There is a question here that says, what plans does the district have for staff with underlying conditions to help keep them safe? And that is our number one priority, to try to help all staff and try to keep them safe, including our students. We are currently developing guidelines that will provide employees with guidance whenever they have an underlying condition. They do need to be in contact with our absence management division of HR by emailing leaves@sis.net or contacting Mario Carmona or Veronica Killings in HR.
Thank you. To honor your time, we'll take 2 more questions. Mr. Redlinger.
Yes, this question is for if at the end of the school day, since there's multiple times of dismissals, will students be required to be off campus? And that answer is each campus administrator is developing a specific plan to meet the needs of all students on that campus.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carmona.
Yes, this question is related to COVID-19. If we are exposed to COVID-19 from our child from another campus, will we have to use personal sick days during this time? And since the question is specifically related to COVID-19, know that, of course, we're going to verify eligibility and qualifying reasons based on the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. And of course, you can send your inquiries directly to leaves@sisd.net.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Borrego.
I have a question here that says, not sure if I'm understanding this correctly. Are students learning from home, hybrid model 4, be learning live from the teacher who is giving instruction from school? And yes, you are understanding that correctly. All of our models are a live teacher, whether it's the remote model, whether it's the hybrid model, whether it's the at-home model. All of our students will be taught a daily schedule by a teacher live, whether it's remotely, virtually, or if someday we come back to what we know as normal, it will always be a teacher and it will be live.
Thank you. Well, Team SISD, those of you that are with us remotely and those of you that are with us here today, thank you so much for your input and feedback. Again, together we are building this new plan, 2020-21. Here we come. And we are going to be presenting this to our board for their guidance. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Stay healthy and Godspeed.